The Mix.
Welcome to Command HQ. It is Sunday, September 17th, 2023. A lot going on. Russell Brand is being canceled. We have Taiwan going on. Wasn't supposed to show that at the beginning of the stream. We got a lot of Russell Brand stuff.
Russell Brand's getting eviscerated.
Yeah, why is Russell Brand getting eviscerated, Agent X?
Well, I mean, it's funny, right? Like, Russell Brand has had a YouTube channel. He was a movie star. He was a comedian, then a movie star, married Katy Perry, and then kind of fell out of the I guess the social zeitgeist, right? He got married to a Rothschild relative, the famous Rothschild family. So he's not directly married to a Rothschild, but he's in the circle, right? And had kids and kind of fell out of the zeitgeist and started this YouTube channel that was basically exposing things like the World Economic Foundation, Big Pharma making huge profits off of COVID-19, just, presenting facts, which the mainstream media would call alt-right positions. So he's had this channel and he's got a few million viewers. I don't know if you can pull it up. But he's got a few million viewers, and it's really starting to gain popularity. Joe Rogan's referencing it. They sort of silenced Joe Rogan by buying him off, right? They had Spotify give him a huge, massive, multi-million dollar deal. Can you pull up Russell Brand's YouTube channel real quick?
Yeah.
And they silenced him through money, although they did try to, attack him with ivermectin stuff, and they changed sort of the color of his videos to make him look more sick. But Russell Brand is like legitimately exposing, I guess, corruption in the government, corruption in mainstream media, corruption in the stakeholder capitalism that we're going through in Vanguard and BlackRock that they're trying to push. So, and he's gaining more and more popularity. So it looks like that for months now, they've been working on this Channel 3 and the Times in London have been working on this article going around looking for women to claim that he raped them. And let's see how many. He's got 6.6 million subscribers. It's crazy. And 6.61 million subscribers. And so it seems like that the powers that be said we've had enough. So they went and they dug into his past and they found women to accuse him of rape. And I don't know if you have that screenshot up that I sent you earlier today, but they basically claim they're making such outlandish claims that he raped a woman on broken glass while playing while playing a version of Goebbels, i.e. the German Goebbels.
Right here. Hold on, let me pull it up.
Or recorded in Berlin at the Berlin Sportspalast in February 1943. So they're basically saying he was getting off to a Goebbels speech while raping this woman. It's how outlandish it is. And you know why? Well, we know why. Because he's got this YouTube channel. He's getting more and more publicity. He's going on Yeah, here it is. Russell Brand then proceeded to sexually assault her on broken glass in his living room while forcing her to listen to Goebbels, which was the Nazi disinformation officer or the chief propagandist. Total War speech recorded live at the Berlin Sportspalast in February 1943. I mean, I can't think of basically calling him a Nazi, right? Um, can't think of anything worse. I mean, it's out. What an outlandish claim. But so the first thing, if you pull up that woman, we know that these stories have been cultivated, right? So they have a woman that posted on what was it, TikTok, that she was contacted by Channel 3 and the Times, basically trying to get her to say that Russell Brand raped her, and her story didn't fit the narrative, so they didn't include her story. So I don't know if you let's play it from the beginning.
I actually know who this is about, and I have the receipts. I was contacted in June by a journalist regarding a video I made about a certain celebrity and a weekend that we shared together. The video is kind of viral. It's on my page somewhere if you want to go see it.
Real quick. Let me ask you something, Brock. Would you smash?
You know, I watched this a couple times before the show. I love the English accent. Of course, I'd smash. What about you, Agent X?
Oh, I would definitely smash. She's hot. She's hot.
She's
but go ahead and let's play the rest. She's getting older. Her story basically.
You can tell whenever Russell Brand had access to her, she was a little bit younger.
Yeah, but you know, and they're also trying to say, you know, they're accusing him of underage.
Yeah, the 16-year-old stuff. I mean, like it's really hard to know the nature of these relationships because of the fact that this is a coordinated attack. You don't know what's up or down. And yeah, I mean, just the initial emotion of hearing something like that, you would be revolted. But it's very difficult to discern truth from fiction when you have a coordinated attack like this, particularly when it comes around election time. Remember, all of these claims come around an election. And since Russell Brand has such a wide reach, he can impact American elections, he can impact elections in different parts of the world.
Well, and you know, they never provide receipts. So this woman actually provides receipts. Like she shows the screenshots of how they're trying to influence her. Like, oh, this is a sensitive subject. We should talk about it on the phone. They're trying to call her back and basically bribe her, right? And she just didn't return their call because she wasn't raped. But you can, it's interesting. You can tell that these claims are bogus because none of these women ever have receipts, right? They claim, oh, he did this to me, he did that, but there's no, like, you know, hey, listen, if like I'll give you an example, right? So like with you, like you were in a situation where you took a girl out to dinner and she showed up with her friend and they bought a bunch of stuff, and you being the cheap person you are, refused to pay for it, and the girl punched you in the face at the restaurant. And what was the first thing you did? You like fucking told me, you told other people about it, right? You called the police. So
I did,
yeah, you know, when something outrageous happens to you, what do? Like, even if you don't call the police immediately, like you tell other people. Like you have text messages, you have
I get what you're saying. Yeah. Contemporaneous witnesses.
These women never, these stories that come out smearing these men never have cooperation. Just look at E. Jean Kelly, right? Like there's nothing to substantiate her story, nothing whatsoever.
30 years ago, Trump groped her in a department store, right? but no one
Well,
else
no, no.
witnessed it.
If Donald Trump grabbed you in a okay, hold on. Let's give the equivalent to Donald Trump. Okay, like what's the female equivalent? Um, like let's say I don't know, like some famous woman.
Oprah went.
Wait, what?
Oprah.
Okay, let's just say Oprah. Say you were walking into fucking Macy's, right? And Oprah grabbed you, right? And took you into the dressing rooms and forced you to have sex with her. What's the first thing you're gonna do when you leave?
I would tell
that
my
dressing
friends. I would probably tell my friends first, maybe other people in my life. Those people,
You tell your friends, you tell your family. I mean, if it was not consensual, you'd probably, you know, figure out, talk to other people and figure out if you should go to the police and eventually file a police report. But none of that happened. None of it with any of these. And it's the same thing with Russell Brand. There's no receipts for any. There's one woman who claims she went to a rape crisis center the day after, but there's no evidence of it. Where's like that they give you a form or like give you a some sort of documentation that you were there. And with the way these things were even back then, these women would go to these rape or these domestic abuse crisis centers, and they would put in they would literally type in their stuff on a freaking kiosk, and an order of protection would be printed out for them. Like it's outrageous. So none of this stuff has any truth to it. Is Russell Brand, was he a sexual deviant? Probably, yeah. Did he do weird shit? Yeah, probably. Was any of this non-consensual? Probably not, given the fact that there's no receipts. So you can tell from this woman here the fact that they're trying to pressure her into saying that he raped her. And she's pushed back, and they're not interested in publishing her story that she had a consensual relationship with him. I mean, if you're doing a fair and balanced report, don't you want to say, oh yeah, we talked to these other women and say that they never had this sort of experience with Russell Brand? No, it's a total freaking smear piece. And why play the Bill Maher clips? Because those are indicative of why they're going after him. Like, I mean, this is okay. Here you go. Yeah, this is exactly why they're attacking him now.
Well,
yes.
Out of respect for you and your show, I've brought some facts. Would you? If you like, they're actually.
You just get the fuck out of here. This is not the place.
I thought you'd like facts.
We love facts. I love facts.
I wouldn't have mentioned it. I'm English, and you know that politeness is our fundamental religion. But they do pertain to this issue, so may I say some of them? If they inconvenience you, I'll stop saying them. The pandemic created at least 40 new big pharma billionaires. Pharmaceutical corporations like Moderna and Pfizer made $1,000 of profit every second from the COVID-19 vaccine. More than two-thirds of Congress received campaign funding from pharmaceutical companies in the 2020 election. Pfizer chairman Albert Bourla told Time magazine in July 2020 that his company was developing a COVID vaccine for the good of humanity, not for money. And of course, Pfizer made $100 billion in profit in 2022. And may I just mention, finally, and this is also a fact, that you, the American public, funded the development of that. The German public funded the BioNTech vaccine. When it came to the profits, they took the profits. When it came to the funding, you paid for the funding. All I'm querying is this.
Yes.
Is if you have an economic system in which pharmaceutical companies benefit hugely from medical emergencies, where a military-industrial complex benefits from war, where energy companies benefit from energy crises, you are going to generate states of perpetual crisis, where the interests of ordinary people separate from the interests of the elite.
Yeah, so that last part of it just basically summarized why they're going after. He exposed what has been the truth for the past, 60, 70 years, but more recently, the past 30 years, is that when you have a military-industrial complex like Lockheed Martin and Booz Allen, and have all these government contractors that are being paid billions and billions of dollars, right, to basically facilitate war, to facilitate the infrastructure and the machinery of war, when you have biotech, when you have these pharmaceutical companies that are for-profit companies that make billions and billions of dollars based upon selling drugs, and in the case of COVID, untested experimental drugs funded by the public. When you have these mechanisms set up to that basically profit off of catastrophe and conflict, that you're going to be in a perpetual state of catastrophe and conflict, just like we're seeing now with Ukraine, just like we're seeing now with, we're going to talk about a little later with Taiwan. We're in a perpetual state. That's why the Uniparty in DC hated Trump so much. He didn't start a single freaking war. We had 4 years of relative peace where we didn't engage, where we weren't inserted into some kind of conflict. And they hated the military industrial complex, hated that. They hated it. They hated it because they couldn't profit from it. Trump was not a profitable person. I mean, look, just go back and look. I mean, from personal experience, I mean, he drove the price of oil down, right? Mm-hmm. He drove the price of oil down. I mean, you and I were together, and we were like, we had a personal experience flipping out because ExxonMobil got down to an all-time low of what was it, $43 a share. Look at it now; it was 118 the other day. So Trump was not a profitable president for the military-industrial complex, the energy companies like ExxonMobil and Chevron, the pharmaceutical companies where he was signing, executive orders basically where you could buy things like insulin and EpiPens from Mexico and Canada where they're cheaper. And Russell Brand's exposing that, and he's being invited on Bill Maher and MSNBC and all these other shows, and he's speaking truth, and they don't like it. So what do they got to do? They got to take him out. And the thing that they have to remember, I sent you a quote today, right? When you lose everything, right, is when you can do anything. And he's totally self-sufficient, right? He's a major movie star, but his platform, I mean, he has a few researchers on his YouTube channel, but he's totally self-sufficient. So their attacks on him are not going to be successful. They're just going to bolster him, right? Nobody believes the crap. I mean, when you sit down and think about it logically, no one can come to the conclusion that any of this stuff was true. And if it was true, it's awful, it's terrible, but there are remedies that could be taken and should have been taken at the time, and they haven't been. But nobody believes it. And this is going to make him more popular because he's going to be more resilient, and it's going to free him up to now go after the predator class, as we call them, even more, which he should. I mean, the predator class is now trying to take him out. We thought for a long time that he might be controlled opposition. But I don't think he's controlled opposition. I think he's legitimately speaking the truth. We have the other clip of him where he gets into it with that bald dude who has the show on Showtime. Was it The Circus? I mean, total chud, total loser. And he just absolutely schools the guy. I think it's on YouTube. It's the first, that one.
I think this is the same one on Bill Maher right here.
Yeah, but it's a different clip.
Oh, okay.
Start to embrace, and also, mate, like just spiritually, if I may use that word in your great country, we have to take responsibility for our own perspectives. I've been on that MSNBC, mate. It was propagandist nutcrackery on there. I went on a show called Morning Joe. It was absurd the way they carried on.
Good Morning Joe.
Yes. Yeah, I don't know what it was. It wasn't morning. There was no one called Joe there. No one could concentrate. They didn't understand the basic tenets of journalism. No one was willing to stick up for genuine genuine American heroes like Edward Snowden. No one was willing to talk about Julian Assange and what he's suffered trying to bring real journalism to the American people. And I think to sit within the castle of MSNBC throwing rocks at Fox News is ludicrous.
My friend,
Make MSNBC better. Make MSNBC great again.
My friend, I would. The moment
Fight them on a territory you can win on, Joe.
Russell, darling, the moment that you give me a specific example, an actual example.
Okay, I'll give you one.
Wait, just wait.
Race
Just
or
wait.
Matter?
Just
We need a specific example.
How about a specific? Let me tell you what the
You notice how they like continually interrupt him, right? They won't let him make his point.
MSNBC correspondent or anchor being on television saying
That's
something
what
he
Walker
knew
did to
was
Trump,
false,
like
and we're saying
continually
behind the
interrupted
scenes
him
to his people. This is
today.
I'm about to go out, and we know that the election wasn't stolen
You've
or something
illustrated this
equivalent.
example.
But I will go.
I
But I
understand
will
what
go
you're
out.
saying.
But I will go out on television and say the opposite. I will lie.
When's my answer?
Just give me the specific example.
I understand the basic point.
Give me a specific example.
All right.
I'm with you. I think it's a false equivalency, Russell.
It's a
No, it's not. That's your own bias.
What's his name, by the way?
It's not about bias. It's a false
Wait, what
equivalency
now?
because you don't actually know
This
anything
guy from
about any of these
MSNBC.
organizations you're talking about. Even on MSNBC.
I've read
I don't know,
pieces
but
of a book he wrote.
know,
I'm forgetting his name. He
Oh
wrote a
yeah,
book.
he
what's
runs
his
the
name?
circus.
MSNBC, because he wrote a book about Steve Jobs and Bill Gates back in the day, and that's kind of how he got his job at MSNBC. And I read parts of that book. Anyways, it doesn't really relate to Russell Brand, but
John
he is a
Heilemann.
propagandist. Heilman, yeah, that's right.
Yes, he's a
and
major propagandist.
He's become worse and worse over the years. I mean, he was like fairly level-headed and neutral at one point, but then he's gone. I think he's just a paid gun for the propagandists on MSNBC to say or spit out whatever they want him to say. And then, here he's basically paid to go on and interrupt Russell Brand on Bill Maher. And I watched this originally when it was airing on HBO, and now it's kind of like all over the place now because of all these concerted allegations coordinated among these 4 or 5 women coming out against Russell Brand. But there's a lot of layers to this, and another layer is that the women that have come out and coordinated these allegations have done it anonymously. That's another key characteristic of this whole enterprise.
Yep.
Because if you're anonymous, you can say whatever you want. There's no confrontation. There's no, there's no one refuting your statements directly, at least for a while, unless you get into a legal situation where you have to actually go to court. And so that is, and of course, that's all these, so-called newspapers, and they're not really newspapers. They're just, it's worse than tabloid. Back in the 20s, they used to call this yellow journalism, but it's a lot worse. And so it's, it's all they need is just an allegation from these women. And when did these allegations originally kind of occur? I mean, like 15 years ago or something, or 10 years ago, whatever it was. But, I think it's going to actually enhance. Look at what's happening. I mean, you kind of it's going to actually build his platform, don't you think? Agent Alex?
Absolutely. It's going to build his platform. It's going to expand his reach. It's just like, I don't know if you watch, those guys like Nerdrotic and Hill versus Babyface, but they were talking about a new game that came out, right? Called Starfield. And in the game, you have to choose your pronouns for the character that you create. And the guy from Hill versus Babyface just went on this rant about how they're injecting current day politics into video games, and all these leftists clipped it, right? And all it did was increase the guy's subscriber base, right? Because if you're already subscribed to him, you're not going to unsubscribe because you already know what he's about. The same thing with Russell Brand. You know that this is a hit job. it's a complete smear piece. I'm sure things are not like, I'm sure he doesn't feel great right now, but you know, it'll blow over. It's a complete smear piece. Um, it's awful, but yeah, I think it'll increase his viewership. I think it's only drawing more attention, right? Because it's like the Streisand effect. You accuse him of something, and then you have his supporters coming out and throwing these clips out that make sense, like the one you played on YouTube, the one you played on Twitter. You know, where you know there's some motivation for them trying to silence him now. You know, when are they going to realize it doesn't work anymore? I mean, that's the question. I don't think they ever will. Like they're totally okay with destroying people. Um,
I think Russell Brand's agent quit, and what they're trying to do is kind of like claw these establishment people that are going to otherwise help Russell Brand push the narrative that he wants to push. So I think what they're trying to do is like restrict his movement in this space, if that makes any sense whatsoever. But you know, the other thing is, you know, during the Me Too era, quote Me Too era, they would just kind of recklessly do this to anyone, anywhere, at any time. And now it's very focused, if you've noticed, because
Yep.
like they did Andrew Tate, now they're doing Russell Brand. Elon Musk almost fell victim to this at one point, where flight attendant said that Elon Musk roped her or something, and who knows what happened there. But it seems like anyone who becomes influential in any capacity and doesn't parrot this establishment narrative then has to deal with this sort of canceled approach from the mainstream media. And of course, now we've had to deal with this for 5 years, so everybody is well aware that it's fake. And what I've noticed is, you know, people like us, Agent X, we never received any support. I didn't receive any support from anyone, even my closest friends. And you know, you don't really have to be worried about Russell Brand so much as you need to be vigilant about the people who are somewhat defenseless, so to speak, against this sort of like widespread and coordinated attack from multiple angles. And your surface area as someone who doesn't have millions of dollars, particularly to pay lawyers to fight some of these allegations, and you have to do it yourself. And in some ways it's actually better because you kind of like, you know, grow and you become mentally stronger. However, you know, these guys are falling victim to this, and this probably has been going on at a low level for so long, 30-40 years, and now it's become like crystallized where people can actually see it for what it is. And especially if you connect this up to Trump and E. Jean Carroll, and how crazy that allegation was, and now they're calling Trump, you know, sexual abuser, which is categorically false. Everybody knows that. But just that headline or that chyron will trigger so many, especially women, I think. And maybe we've reached this point of saturation where it's no longer going to exist.
It's the smear, right? It's to muddy the waters. That's all it is. Smear, muddy the waters, impugn somebody's character. That's all it is. That's all it is.
Should we switch gears and talk about Taiwan? Do you want to go into the Jack Smith Trump stuff? Do you want to talk about this MSNBC interview with?
Well, I just want to talk about the Trump interview with Welker because it's so so obnoxious, right?
I don't think we can pull it up without getting a copyright strike. But I think we could show like a still image of it. It's fair use, but yeah, there's a lot of content out right now, especially on Twitter. But you were telling me before we started the stream, Agent X, the difference between like a Biden interview and a Trump interview, and still today they're trying to like trap Trump, disrupt Trump, and you can
Right.
tell it's
So, yeah. So, I mean, I think you can at least like pull up the video and not play it just so people can see where it's at. But she was trying to pin him down on where he was during the Capitol riot, January 6th riots. And of course he can't say it, right? Because where he was and what he did during that time where the stuff was going on at the Capitol is central to his criminal defense. But she was trying to pin him down and make a statement on it so then he couldn't back out later, like pin him down. So she was trying to do Jack Smith's work for him. And then, he would say something in the interview, and she would, like, the interview was pre-recorded, and she would cut away back to the studio and, like, basically fact check him. It was disgusting on every level. And, like, defend Biden. She would cut back and say, oh, there's no evidence that, that Nancy Pelosi denied 10,000 National Guard troops. There's no evidence that Joe Biden has met with Merrick Garland about bringing these charges against Donald Trump. It's complete horseshit. Like, Trump should be able to speak and not be fact-checked by a biased reporter in the middle of his interview. Like, if he says something and he believes it, right? And it's a reasonable inference to say, yeah, but Biden is persecuting his political opponent with these charges. And this is a coordinated effort by Democrat prosecutors in New York and Atlanta. Jack Smith, a Democrat administration, without being fact checked, and basically being called a lunatic. I mean, it's ridiculous. I mean, the way that these people insulate and defend Biden, and meanwhile you have a man in office who literally shits his pants, can't get out two words, can't form a coherent sentence. And I think you're right. You're seeing him out more and more and more now. Like, he used to never give speeches. It was rare. And I think you're seeing more and more, like, they're pushing him to give more and more speeches because they're trying to basically uncork it, right? They don't want him to run in 2024. They basically want him to step down, particularly with this Hunter Biden stuff now. So, but this interview here is a freaking travesty. I mean, for Kristen Welker to act the way she did and cut in from the studio and fact check him, it's really bad. It just shows how biased, and it's like going back to Russell Brand, it just shows how biased they are, right? They'll do it.
I think people are really actually very sick of it.
Yeah.
There's
Nobody
this
wants. I
feeling
mean, think about this. You have an interview with Donald Trump, right? I mean, how on NBC, he actually went to and gave an interview to NBC, and it's only got 677,000 views. You would think it would have several million, but and you have to remember a lot of these views are because this video is on.
It's on like
automatically
embedded or whatever. Yeah,
it's an embedded video, so it gets played anytime you pull up NBC
for like 5
News.com.
seconds. Yeah, and they count that as a view.
Yeah, so even that, I mean, people are just sick of it. People are sick of it in general.
Look, think about this though. A Tucker Carlson video gets 3 million views in a matter of an hour on Twitter, and an MSNBC video, quote unquote legacy media video, gets 600,000. And this is a huge interview, by the way. It's the first episode of this new host.
Show.
600,000 views, which is actually not good at all.
No, and you have to remember Chuck Todd retired and Kristen Welker took over, and this was her first show today. 677,000. I'm sure it'll get to 1 million, but a lot of these are fake views or these embedded views, but this isn't good. I mean, it just shows you that people are tuning out. But no, if you want to talk about Taiwan a little bit, then maybe we can call it a night.
Yeah.
Dude, Taiwan it's a scary situation right now. I guess within the past 24 hours, they moved 103 warplanes. Yeah. And apparently the island's surrounded by warships. This is very bad. Very, very bad.
By the
and
way,
I like,
we're kind of testing whether or not YouTube cuts the stream when we start talking about Taiwan. Because it seems like in the past 2 streams we've done, that's exactly what has happened. So, we're kind of testing the waters here. But yeah, so I'm sorry to interrupt you, Agent X, go on.
No. This is a scary situation. So Welker tried to pin Trump down today and ask him if he would send troops to Taiwan. He's like, I'm not going to tell you that. He's like, why would I tell you that? That takes all the leverage I have off the table if I go and have to negotiate with China. And it's a smart play, but I mean, China's taking advantage. I mean, now is the time. If you're China, when's a better time? You have a very weak president who doesn't even know where he's at, who walks out of the White House and says his butt's been wiped. There's no way that they're going to go into that we're going to send troops to Taiwan to defend it, right? Very weak president. You don't know who's going to get elected. You don't know if it's going to be Biden again, if they're going to replace him, if Trump's going to get elected, if Trump's going to get knocked out. Plus the war in Ukraine. And there was an article out today that Zelensky said NATO should be prepared for a very, very long war. But we're going to have war on 2 fronts. And make no mistake, like, the war in Ukraine is a proxy war between NATO and Russia, right? There's no question about it. But this is scary because if China goes into Taiwan, I mean, we basically lose access to semiconductors. We are in bad shape if that happens. There's been efforts to have sort of plants built in the United States, but I don't think we're going to be up to speed in time, and we're going to be totally cut off. And this is going to be the catalyst to World War III, because Biden's not going to send troops in, and whoever gets elected is going to have to go in and deal with this, and it's going to require sending troops in eventually.
How do you think the impeachment plays into this? Because China probably has, from what I've seen, allegations consisting that there's evidence of bribes being paid to the Biden family. And so if this is true, they can use this as leverage to pressure
they have a
Biden to prevent
president.
him from applying U.S. military force against China to defend Taiwan. And so this is an ideal time, particularly considering the fact that it plays right into the Chinese hands that McCarthy's coming up with this impeachment, kind of in between these 2 elections.
Remember with Trump, they said that he was compromised because Russia had dirt on him, and Putin would use it against him, which never happened, right? It was all made up. It was all fake, forged. The P video was a total hoax. But with Biden, you actually have a legitimate compromised president when it comes to one of our adversaries in China. There's no doubt that they have receipts of bribing and paying money to Hunter Biden, of kickbacks to Joe Biden. There's absolutely no question about it. And you're right. They're gonna use that leverage to basically get a free pass into Taiwan. There's absolutely no doubt about it.
Get out of jail free. Yeah,
There's
absolutely.
no
It's a free
there's
license to go into
nobody.
Taiwan.
Just think about this. Who's driving the ship right now? I mean, it's certainly not Joe Biden. Joe Biden doesn't even know where he's at. Um, who's steering the ship?
It's a combination of people. It's Jake Sullivan. It's Obama, Michelle
I think
Obama,
won
Michael.
too. Yep. Michael Obama.
I think it's a combination here. I think Jake Sullivan is running a lot of the day-to-day stuff. I think
the guy who signed what was it he got in trouble for? He wasn't he involved in falsifying a report or something like that?
yeah.
And they never really did anything with it.
Yeah.
Just think
I
about
forget
all
what
the
it was,
stuff
but
we don't have answers to, right? We don't have answers who engaged in insider trading on 9/11. We don't have any answers as to how Tower 7 came down. We don't have any answers about dancing Israelis. We don't have any answers about how COVID got released. We don't have any answers about the how much money the Treasury paid during the financial crisis in 2008. We don't know who leaked the Dobbs decision. Like it goes, we don't know who. They never released the footage of the pipe explosives
January 6th.
at January 6th. But yet, we don't have answers to these very, very, very important questions. And I was thinking about making a website that had a running list of important questions we don't have answers to. But yet we somehow have security footage of Lauren Boebert vaping and jerking some guy off at a Beetlejuice play, right? Like that's the world we live in. We can't be trusted to know how COVID originated. We can't be trusted to know who leaked the Dobbs decision in the Supreme Court, and that they know who it is. And whoever it is should have been disciplined, and they should have been exposed. But we get a video of Lauren Boebert vaping and jerking some guy off in a theater. That's what we get. I mean, that's the world we live in. That we are not trusted with the truth about important issues, about important things going on, and instead we're distracted with junk like that. And meanwhile, we've never gotten answers about Hunter
Biden. There's so many questions to ask though here, and it's like, why does this occur? Is it immunity given to government officials? Is that one of the reasons why? Because they can get away with anything they want? Like, what's going on?
I think. Just look at sort of the stuff that you and I've been through. It's just this collective effort to suppress damaging information that'll make government officials look bad.
Yeah, I mean they don't care who the fuck over.
You have within the Manhattan District Attorney's Office, which is prosecuting Trump right now, you have a woman who is a prosecutor whose husband set up fucking peephole cameras to capture the nanny doing her business in the bathroom.
Oh.
What was her name? Lauren Angelo. You can look it up on the New York Post. The nanny caught them with installing peepholes cameras, and
we're definitely gonna lose all our viewers if we pull this up, but
yeah,
at
there
the
you
end
go.
of the stream anyways.
Install bathroom cleaner.
Yeah, I mean it's disgusting.
Go to the next one. So go back
the next
and go
one?
to the
Okay.
there's a link underneath it. It said that the nanny was taking on. Go back to Google.
Yep, got it.
Yeah. So yeah, she's a prosecutor, and they don't take any action against her, right? Yeah. No, she still has a job. This woman who set up peephole cameras, her and her husband set up peephole cameras to capture the nanny in the bathroom, still has a job as a prosecutor. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Groomers. Still has a job as a prosecutor in the Manhattan District Attorney's Office. The mother, who was a judge and a referee, tried to intervene and get the nanny to stop suing them and got sanctioned. That's in another article. But you have these people in a position of power who have no business in any position of power, particularly in a position such as a prosecutor's office, where a single charging decision can ruin it's not the conviction, it's the charge can ruin somebody's life. And you have somebody with such poor judgment that they would install peephole cameras to capture the nanny in a state of undress, who wasn't fired, wasn't prosecuted, still has a job, still covering up corruption. This Lauren Angelo still has a job in the Manhattan District Attorney's Office, and this office is going after Trump. It's absolutely ludicrous, absolutely insane, and that's what our government is full of, is people like this, Lauren Angelo, who want to cover up their misconduct. So that's why we never get answers. It's because we have a military-industrial complex, and we have these people in government who commit, these government contractors and these people within the federal government who make a living off of misconduct, fraud, corruption, and they don't want anybody to know about it, right? Everything is misinformation. And we never get answers to this stuff because it's all a cover-up, man. It's all it is. It's a huge cover-up.
Well, the other thing here is that
You gonna buy some shoes, bro?
yeah, it came up and it threw me off. So the other thing here is that people aren't actually, it's people in these states who don't actually take action against these corrupt prosecutors, these corrupt judges, these corrupt government officials in general, are the ones to blame, because people have been complacent for way too long. And people like Lauren Angelo Seltzer, they should have and they deserve discipline and removal from their position in the
They deserve to be
DA's
criminally
office.
prosecuted.
Or criminally prosecuted, considering the seriousness of the allegations that have significant evidence to back it up. And you never see that. You never see that. And we have immunities for everything, for all of these government officials, and yet who are they going after? They're going after police officers. Why? Because police officers are the lowest on the totem pole, and oftentimes,
Look at this. The prosecutor leaned on the nanny after she filed a police report. Look at the prosecutor leaned on her with every pillar of law enforcement she could muster, basically threatening him. And this woman still has a job, this Lauren Angelo. I think she divorced her husband, but still has a freaking job. And it's like, I'm not saying she shouldn't have a job, but she shouldn't have a job as a freaking prosecutor.
right?
I mean, what the hell?
Well, there should be term limits too, and I think this is also applicable to like DA's offices, because you get kind of this like embedded prosecutor that just sits there for 30, 40, 50 years. And what ends up happening is you have these Nancy Pelosi situations where you just have a bunch of kind of inbred bureaucrats that are all, politically, metaphorically sleeping together to churn as much corruption as they possibly can within this sort of small area. And, this seems to be more the case in these really disgusting liberal cities like New York City or LA or Chicago. And these cities are bad, and it never gets better. Once they're in there, it's very difficult to get them out, as you can tell. And so, and we were also talking about this, Agent X. You and I were probably the first, literally the first, to really take these corrupt prosecutors and judges head on. And we opened the pathway or the avenue that allowed for, you know, other people to feel more comfortable to criticize them lawfully and peacefully, of course, because these are the predators who are actually applying their knees to our neck. These are the predators who are enforcing this brutal police state that we live in this country, and it's usually these DA's offices, and you know, I mean, we could go on and on about stories about the Manhattan District Attorney's Office, but ultimately, the most important thing right now is the fact that these corrupt prosecutors are going after Trump. They're going after anybody who represents Trump, whether that's Elena Haba or Rudy Giuliani. And you notice there's a pattern here. How come all of Trump's attorneys somehow get into hot water with the disciplinary officials in whatever state it is, whether it's DC or New York or wherever? Same thing happens in the Midwest. Eric Cardell, who represented Trump in a Wisconsin lawsuit, suddenly found himself in an issue where he got sanctioned and then he got a private admonishment. So Sidney Powell got charged. You know, the list goes on and on, etc., etc. So Agent X, I mean, you really got me going here with the legal stuff, but
It's wild, bro.
just to get back on topic, I mean, and you know, and then you have China with leverage over Biden and using that during this huge impeachment to invade Taiwan, disrupt the American global hegemony over there in the Pacific arena. And, you know, what we're seeing is this American empire is falling apart, and it's falling apart really quickly, and it's going to come down because the petrodollar is failing. Now we have BRICS coming on board, and you know, there's going to be a moment here probably in the next 2 to 3 years, and there was a chart I think you sent me, Agent X, that showed that the interest that we're paying on this debt, and I think it's reaching like historic levels, it's going to be unsustainable, where they're going to have to cancel the US dollar because we're not going to be able to pay for it. All the money in our bank accounts is going to be wiped clean.
It's going to be worthless after the fact, you know, with the, like, I don't want to get into a whole thing about petrodollar recycling. We can say that for another stream, but it's going to be worthless. Dude, let me send you this link real quick. Look at this.
Okay.
She's a Manhattan prosecutor making, you know, like $70,000 a year, but somehow has the money to buy a $1.2 million condo.
Holy shit.
In 2013.
How does that happen?
I don't know, bro.
Is her husband fairly wealthy? Matthew Seltzer?
I don't know. I mean, we can look him up.
Maybe he is. I mean, maybe there's a logical explanation. I don't want to imply that she's taking bribes or engaging in misconduct simply because she's got a condo that's 1.65 million.
Bro,
but this is
the dude is a physical therapist. I just sent you a link to his profile.
There's no way then, unless she bought that condo in like 1945, which is unlikely unless she got it from her parents or her grandparents, that she owns a condo. I mean, this is a tax assessment at $1.65 million.
No, that's what she sold it for.
Holy shit.
She bought it for 1.2.
How the fuck did she buy this condo for $1.2 million? That's
Hold on, let me send you a link to it. I mean, this is the corruption I'm talking about. And her mother was a criminal court judge. How many bribes do you think she took? This dude's a physical therapist, right? There's no way they can afford $1.2 million. No way. I just sent you a link to the apartment. 2-bedroom, Manhattan. Bullshit.
I mean, it's just,
well, it's funny too. Yeah, it's
2-bedroom condo in Manhattan. It's got an updated kitchen. You know, it's like an average condo for that area. I mean, in the anywhere else in the country, this would be worth like, you know, $170,000.
Yeah.
If that, 150,000. But in New York, it's 1.2 million. But the real question here is like, how did she get that money originally to buy this place? And secondly, like, what, you know, why isn't there an investigation here? Well, you know, why isn't there a bigger public sort of uproar about what's going on with these prosecutors suddenly coming into money and having the ability?
Well, we talked about it, right? Like, if you look at some of these federal judges who make 200 and was it 60, $270,000 a year in Manhattan, and they're on the bench 10 years and somehow they're multimillionaires.
Eduardo
Like, how the fuck does that
Ramos.
happen? Yeah, Eduardo Ramos. You can look at his
It's a good
financial
example.
disclosures, and nobody scrutinizes them. Nobody scrutinizes that stuff. The financial disclosures are public, yet nobody scrutinizes it. He goes from having, you know, a couple $100,000 to legitimately having over $10 million in the course of a decade as a federal judge. How the hell does that happen? How? In Manhattan, I can understand maybe if you're like, you know, stuck in Nebraska, right, and you're just stashing away $100,000 a year and maybe have, you know, living very frugally. But in Manhattan, how the hell are you doing that? There's only one conclusion: is these people are on the take. That's all you can. That's all you can.
You know, I think we brought this to the
conclusion.
attention of a couple not prosecutors, of reporters, and there was like actually a lot of reporting on Ramos not recusing himself from cases that he actually had a financial interest in, because he owned stock in some, you know, company that had a position in the litigation.
He owned stock in Exxon. He owned stock in another case. I think there were 3 cases where he had a financial interest.
The Wall Street Journal wrote an article, and they actually put a picture of him in the article, and you know, they criticized him fairly reasonably for his misconduct. But then again, like, the federal court isn't actually doing anything about it. They didn't issue any sort of
Go to his Wikipedia
admonishment.
page right there. Hold on. Go right there. Go to his Wikipedia page. Scroll down.
Controversy section.
Yeah, controversy. Yeah, right there. Boom. Right there. I think there were 3 cases.
Exxon, Barclays, and HSBC.
Yep. Right there on his Wikipedia page. And this is the guy who ruled against Trump with respect to some of the subpoenas that were served on him, and like viciously attacked Trump.
Yeah, and here's the other thing, like, if Trump were to bring this up in the course of that litigation, speaking of Jack Smith's gag order, I mean, they would just gag him and say that he's harassing the judge.
Yeah, they would sanction him. They would say you're disrespecting a judge. But look, this guy is certainly corrupt. Like, he should have disclosed this. He blamed it on his secretary. The secretary had the names wrong. How the hell do you have the name wrong for Exxon on your conflict sheet? You freaking... I mean, it doesn't even pass the laugh test. But dude, I think we should sign off, man. I gotta get to bed. Got some deep state double agenting to do tomorrow.
Let's scheme for this next week. Do you want to? Are you gonna be available anytime this week? I don't want to put you on the spot.
Dude, probably not Tuesday, but the rest of the week I should be available.
Tomorrow, do you think you're gonna be kind of busy?
Yeah, I could probably do a stream tomorrow.
Okay, please like the stream and subscribe to the channel. Let me find the ending slide. Anything else, Agent X, before we shut this down?
No, just shout out to the people in the chat. Shout out to Frog Club. He dropped a
Frog
bunch
Club.
of
Thanks for chatting.
But yeah, no, man, we'll hit it tomorrow.
Okay. See you later, guys. Bye.
Thanks for watching Command HQ with Brock and Agent X. We'll see you next time.